What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode for Bleach: The Thousand Year Blood War. This is episode 34, and with me, as always, I have Blue Smith.
Yeah. Um, it's how to describe this? It's like it's one of the more visually bizarre looking episodes of the
Yeah,
Bleach so far. I mean, outside the CG, which of course is used significantly and particularly for the main villain of the episode. Um, this of course is just like we're talking about. Like this is another Mayuri fight or battle or whatever you really call this, because it is, I mean, in terms of like how Mayuri fights his opponents, he doesn't really fight in the most conventional method, like in comparison to like how Ichigo or the others do it.
yeah. Well, the first thing that happens is that Kenny tries to basically just brute force, basically just I guess in typical Kenny fashion, he just doesn't really think about what he's about to do. He just attacks his opponent. Like he just rushes up to Pernitas and tries to cut him, which he does manage to do. But then at the expense, I guess, of having one of his arms cut off.
Well, I mean, no, he
But
ripped his own arm off because
or yeah, no, yeah, that's right. He ripped his arm off because it got because we find out that apparently Ferdinand is like, because we don't really know what he looks like under the hood. But he has all these like these tentacles which can, I guess, get into people's nerves and attack them their nerves. So like it tries to like get into Kenny's arm and I guess like take over his body. But before it can do that, yeah, he cuts off his arm so that the rest of him isn't going to get uh because we see what happens to his arm that he cuts off. It basically just gets blown up and turned into just a chunk of meat and just explodes. So I guess that would have been what happened to Kenny if he hadn't cut off his arm.
yeah. And then, well, of course, ignoring Mayuri's warnings, he of course charges against Bernita again, and then of course he's caught by an entire attack again, and then his entire body starts begins to contort in a similar fashion like his arm did. But of course, Mayuri stabs him from behind and paralyzes him with some kind of like with some weird agent in his sword, which which allows Kenpachi to not feel any pain but not move at the same time.
Yeah, so like the whole episode, what was it? Uh, Nemu and I can't figure
Nemu, what was it? Ikaku and Yuichika.
yeah, they're just kind of watching from the sidelines, while the Mayuri basically like he that golden robe he's been wearing through like multiple episodes now, like apparently like it's some kind of explosive armor, because it does eventually like during the fight it gets like he gets hit, but the armor just blows up and protects him from the impact.
Yeah, and I think Mayuri ends up using like a vial of acid on Pernita's what was it, tentacle nerve things around his body, which of course enrages Pernita to pretty much reveal his true form, which turns out to be like a gigantic left arm, with which also reveals that he's the left arm of the Soul King.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions with that as well. It's like I'm just wondering like why exactly the left arm of the Soul King supposedly has gained sentience and is working with the Quincy's and working with the Quincy King. That kind of I kind of wonder like why that is, because we know what happened with the, I guess, the other arm of the Soul King, but it's just weird that this one seems like it thinks it's, I guess it thinks it's something else, because it thinks it's like it says like, oh, I'm Pernitas, I'm not the Soul King's arm or whatever. So I'm wondering why that is, like why it seems like it's its own person and not part of the Soul King.
Yeah, like his speech patterns does start off a little bit broken at times, but then like the tone of voice starts changing the longer this episode goes.
Mm-hmm.
So and of course the overall fight itself, it goes in several ways. Like Mayuri uses his arm like as a grappling hook. He uses like a variation of a flash step, and then he uses a variations of his moves to evade most of Pernita's attacks. He manages to sever one of his fingers, but the finger ends up turning into like another like left arm or something like that. I think he also creates another left arm too, and then it gets to the point where Mayuri decides to use like his Bankai, but it turns out it's an altered Bankai, which is different from like what he usually uses previously, which turns what was it Ashi Sogi Jizo into like this. It's hard to describe how strange this this thing is. Like it's giant
But it
baby.
was strange in the original series too, because it was also in the original series a giant golden baby.
Uh, yeah, I mean it was a giant black baby thing, and then it gives birth to like this another golden baby thing, which Mayuri says it has nerves outside of his body, and then he sends this baby to pretty much eat all three arms, at once. Just, because because the nerves are outside the baby's body and not in the inside, there's no way Pranita can use his ability against him. So like pretty much like he's pretty much devoured whole at this point, and that's where the episode ends.
Yeah. Um yeah, I wonder if that, Pernita's not gonna find some way to get out of that, but yeah, it seems like yeah, he just got eaten by Mayuri's Bankai. Um but yeah, I mean it's that like you said, a lot of it is just Mayuri's always been kind of a weird character, and his Bankai is very strange. And this one's just even more strange than it was in the original series. And I guess it makes sense that it's that his I guess his evolved version of his Bankai is like this. And yeah, I guess it's funny because yeah, it's kind of perfect for this situation, that the fact that the baby has nerves on the outside of his body, so that Pernitus's attacks can't really do anything to it, because of that. It almost seems like perfectly suited for this particular fight. So I thought that was kind of funny. And yeah, I feel like, maybe this fight isn't over, but I'm also at the same time wondering how Pernitus is going to try to get out of that. But I guess we'll see if there is going to be another, like, if the fight really isn't over. But I'm assuming that, some of these other episodes are going to be the other captains and lieutenants facing off against some of the other members of the Waldenreich or Yuhaba's like personal guard.
Yeah, we do see Bosby and the other, well, two Sternritters looking to settle the matters against Hoshwald and
Yeah.
Yuhaba later, and then of course we see Urdu being Urdu taking down Renji from the prior episode, and that's pretty much about it.
And yeah, and of course we still have that somewhat of that cliffhanger with Ichigo facing off against Askin, and Grimjow currently being paralyzed.
Yeah, um, but yeah, I mean, it's an I, it's hard. It's harder for me to say how this episode is. It's like it's a decent episode, but uh, it's disturbing in several ways, and how the payoff went about. I mean, I just feel like Mayuri kind of like, it's like literally it's pulling it out of his ass sort of thing, like having his Bankai convenient convenient against Pranita's abilities in particular.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny how it seemed to be the perfect counter for what he could do, and I like it just seemed like it. Yeah, like you said, is rather convenient that it was able to, that it had like the nerves on the outside, so Pernitus couldn't do anything to it. Um, But yeah, that all being said, guys, I guess until next time, we will see you all later.